I'm trying to figure out, really trying to figure out what the whole deal here is with the Indianapolis Colts, specifically the philosophy and approach of general manager Chris Ballard. As I admit, I don't know that I totally get it. And here's what I mean. This is obviously a good team, making playoff appearances here and there. He's generally, talking about Chris Ballard, had some good drafts, some good picks, the Darius Leonard pick, and, that kind of thing, So it's not like he's done a terrible job of drafting. But as I look at this team, and I don't know if it's like a fear caused by the retirement of Andrew Luck a couple years ago. I'm not really sure what it is. But it's like the Indianapolis Colts keep kicking the can down the road on finding that long-term answer at the quarterback position. I'm not really sure I get it. Like last year, the signing of Phillip Rivers was an interesting choice and went predictably about how you would expect it to. They won games and they made the playoffs and they bowed out early. This go around, they're making a trade for a former number 2 overall pick from 5 years ago in Carson Wentz. But his 2020 season in Philadelphia, both because of him, the coaching, the talent around him, he was really bad. I want to emphasize really bad. Not entirely his fault, no. But he was still really bad. Why would you want to take on that massive contract from a quarterback that the organization that's trading him away is giving up so much in getting rid of him after they gave up so much to get him several years before? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I really don't know that I fully grasp why they keep wanting to go down like the veteran or free agent or trade market to solve the quarterback position instead of trying to find that next guy. Now, maybe that's part of the challenge of if you build a decent team, you're not always going to be in position to get the quarterback. I get that. But I don't know. I guess questionable to me it is. What's the real upside of this team? How far can they really go? And then when I look at what they did kind of in the offseason and via the draft, your defense was already really damn good. I understand sometimes there's a component of, you got to kind of take best player available. Sometimes the talent is too good to pass up on. Maybe that's an explanation for Kwity Paye in round 1. Okay, I get that. But, at some point in time, you got to also understand that you got to balance out your team better. You more importantly got to understand that you just traded for Carson Wentz. If you want him to succeed, you have to help him. You're ultimately going to go as far, good, bad, or otherwise, as Carson Wentz is going to take you. Kwity Paye is not going to help that. Deo Odenigbo is not going to help that. Some skill talent, tight ends, wide receivers, maybe shoring up depth on offensive line, the backfield. Those are the places that you invest if you want to get most out of Carson Wentz to potentially have the chance to go farther than you have. So, yeah, you bring in an Eric Fisher so that replaces Costanzo on the offensive line to some degree, but you look at this wide receiving core, you're not going to have T.Y. Hilton the first few weeks, and the receiving core is already kind of questionable as it was, even with T.Y. Hilton. What are we going for here? What's the approach? I don't know. I just don't know that I understand the philosophy of what general manager Chris Ballard's trying to do here. And for those that are going to sit there and come to his defense, I'm not saying he's been a bad general manager, but at the end of the day, all that he's done, what has it really meant? At no point in time have they been a contender. He hasn't gotten his long-term quarterback of the future. We'll see what happens with the whole Carson Wentz experiment and experience, but, feels like the Colts and that organization are frankly wasting time, in my opinion. Now, they've got a good team, obviously. I'm not trying to say they don't have a good team. You look at that offensive line, that's a really good unit. So you're going to be able to protect Carson Wentz better than I think Philly certainly was able to in 2020. Their run defense and their defensive front seven is really, really good. You've got two real key superstar building blocks in that front seven with DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard. So you've got some good talent there. It's a team that's really hard to run against. Front seven that can do a lot of different things. And then offensively with Jonathan Taylor and Wilkins and so forth, like they've got a pretty good running game. So again, thinking about how you help out Carson Wentz, you want to take some of the pressure off of him, you protect him, you run the ball well. That makes sense. Like that's not bad. But structurally, again, when I look at him, the pass defense is questionable, specifically the secondary. They can be got. But offensively, like, it's one thing to bring in Carson Wentz and think he's going to solve things, but who the hell is he going to throw to? Like, I mean, you're going to say maybe like a Michael Pittman. Okay, and then who else? Maybe a T.Y. Hilton comes back. Okay, and then who else? In today's NFL, you really need, at a bare minimum, 3 high-caliber receivers. That doesn't mean that they're all superstars. And when I say receivers, you could include a tight end into that mix. You could include a running back out of the backfield into that mix. But you need 3 to 4 guys, at least 3, ideally 4, that can really be consistent target takers and catch makers and playmakers in your passing game if you want to be really successful. And I just don't know that the Colts have that, nor are they going to have that this year. And then I think the biggest question mark of all is Carson Wentz. Like, I can keep pointing back to his second year in the league in 2017, like, oh, he should have been league MVP. Yeah, he should have, but he got hurt, didn't finish the damn season, and he always has trouble with the ability of availability. And then last year, he just flat out sucked. You know what I mean? Like, why are we automatically assuming that going to a different situation where, yes, the offensive line is good and the running game should be solid, but the receiving talent is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, why are we automatically going to assume that this is going to make a big difference and that the Colts at the end of the year won't be anything other than basically what they were last year, a playoff team that gets bounced early? What's the difference? What's so fundamentally different? You're going to find out a lot about them early on in the year, because I will say this for the Colts. I wouldn't be surprised to see them start out of the gate very slowly, because this first 5 weeks is the shits in terms of toughness. Yes, you get to host games at home the first 2 weeks, but it's against Seattle and the Rams, 2 playoff teams from last year. Yikes. No Cupcake City there to begin the year. Then the next 2 weeks, you go to Tennessee. They were division champs last year. Then you go to Miami. They were a double-digit win non-playoff team last year. Then you got to go to Baltimore in week 5. Like, it wouldn't be unthought of here that the Colts start off this season 1-4 or even 0-5. And we could be talking about all types of things like how Carson Wentz isn't this, that Frank Reich's on the hot seat, like that this is an unmitigated disaster. And then you start getting a little deeper into the teeth of the season. You look at like the stretch of games between weeks 8 to 10, and you've got Tennessee, the Jets, Jacksonville, 3 straight games all at home. You know, you could be looking at a really rough start to the season for the Colts, and then it pieces together and they get a rhythm going and they get some momentum as they go throughout the season. And that's what I envision is potentially going to happen here. If they come out of those first 5 games, honestly, 2-3, like if you're the Colts or you're a Colts fan, you actually got to feel kind of good about that, I think. You say, you know what, that was a really tough stretch to start the season, and we didn't get buried by it. Oh yeah, we're going to go win this division. And I could see that happening. Like, find a way to win one of those 2 home games the first 2 weeks. Because while Seattle and the Rams were 2 playoff teams last year, they also have to travel to the Midwest to play these guys. You figure you win one of those 2 home games and you find a way to maybe beat a Tennessee or Miami or Baltimore, just beat one of the 3. Then you're 2-3 in your toughest stretch of the schedule for the season. That has to bode well for the rest of the year. I think this is a double-digit win team. I do. I think 11-6 is reasonable. I think I would expect them and Tennessee to be battling it out in this division, but I like the Colts a little bit more here. But I just, like I said, fundamentally don't see where they're so much different. Now, who knows? Carson Wentz could come out in 2021 and light up the world. And then the whole dynamics of everything potentially change a lot with this organization. But, you know, even if Carson Wentz is great, who's he going to throw to? Like, I keep waiting for this Colts team to decide whether they're going to stop teetering and they want to become a real contender, or they want to stop teetering and they want to suck really bad. Right now, they're teetering, and that to me a lot of times is the worst possible place to be. Even worse still, because the Colts have playoff aspirations but can't reasonably have championship ones at this point.